We are at the Global WIL Economic Forum, and we're delighted and privileged to have a person from very far away. She's come all the way from South Africa. Her name is Rapelang Rabana, and she's the CEO of a company called Rekindle Learning. And it's a fascinating idea, and we're sitting here talking about how she actually rekindles learning. How do you rekindle learning?
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Pleasure.
You know, I've been a technology entrepreneur for 10 years now, so I always look at different ways we can approach challenging situations in our society. And I think around learning and education, there's a lot of challenges. Even though there's a lot of hype around EdTech and e-learning and things, you'll find that I think we're still in the first generation of it. And by first generation, I don't know if you remember when websites first came out back in the 90s, companies would put that same print brochures online. It was really terrible websites, but we didn't reinterpret the medium to really use it. And now we're finally getting there. So I think with e-learning, we're kind of still in that space. We're putting the PowerPoint presentations and the PDF files that we used to have in print on a shared drive online, and we're calling it e-learning. And we haven't really understood the medium or fundamentally changed how that works. So with Rekindle Learning, we're really looking at how can we embed smart learning methodologies behind the actual learning so that we improve the efficiency of that knowledge transfer and that learning. And there's a range of techniques that we use for that. Concepts around micro-learning and personalized learning, where you learn in small bite-sized chunks and you adapt to how you're performing so that you help focus on your weak areas so that you learn faster and get to the level of performance required a lot quicker. And that can be applied whether you're a sales rep in a mobile operator, or whether you're an auditor in a compliance environment, or whether you're at university and trying to master the new terms of economics and accounting. So it's really, really quite broad.
I'm actually quite cynical about e-learning, and I have used a phrase, education is dead,
yes.
Long live learning. And I'm all about learning. Are you about learning or are you about education?
And you know, I specifically use the word learning in my company name because I find the word education is quite weighted. And it assumes that you sort of just have to, it assumes a very structured and forced rigidity that I just don't think reflects the process of organic learning that needs to happen in the world today. And I also want to tap into the idea that it's not just universities and K-12 education. Learning is an ongoing thing, and it's specifically in areas around work readiness and professional development that we really need to help young people. So for me, it has to be a lot broader than our concept of education.
The other thing I use is learning about learning, learning about thinking, and learning how thinking works, and learning about comprehension and
very
memory.
Important things, very, very important things.
And does e-learning actually address these types of issues?
Not all kinds of e-learning. Like I said, a lot of us are still stuck in the old ages. But for example, with our applications, the way we present the questions to you and how we provide corrective feedback is actually all based on the research of how we overcome the forgetting curve. So there's neuroscience behind what we do there, and it's not just delivering content, which is unfortunately where e-learning is. So it really is about how we understand what the cognitive mind needs. We know that it learns better with small bite-sized chunks. We know that we need to practice more the things that we struggle with. We know that if we get corrective reinforcement quicker rather than later, our chances of retention are significantly improved. And if you follow the neuroscience research out there, you can build much more effective learning solutions as opposed to delivering content, which is sadly where we're still at.
Do you contextualize it in terms of geography and localization? Because in Africa, it could be about giraffes and zebras, while in India it could be about about camels or and donkeys and cows.
Definitely. I mean, this far we've been working a lot more in South Africa, Botswana, and then in Kenya, and we actually work with the organization. So a lot of the time we have proprietary content that is probably sitting in a PowerPoint presentation or in a PDF or something like that, and you want to find another way to package it so that it's distributed and where you can track that the knowledge retention has actually happened. So by definition, it's customized to what that organization needs to actually meet its imperatives. So that's a big factor. We also do provide more generic sort of material. So in South Africa, we'll focus a lot on financial advisory, training and skills, which is a huge opportunity for young people to get into. Our first university platform coming up next year is really suited to that environment because a lot of young South Africans will get into university where they can speak English, but their level of cognitive processing and written English is still below par. And it's almost like a bridging program to compensate for the fact that you didn't have the adequate English instruction at high school, but you must now deliver at this higher platform, but you can't go back to the beginning of high school. What do we do there? So it's very nuanced to kind of those needs, and very different from, I think, English programs you might find for the US or European market, because the nuances will be quite different as to what the challenges are there.
The Global WIL Forum here is talking about ideas which you're coming up with, but also about business and about economics and about making things work.
Sure.
So how does your business model work?
So our business model really adapts the sort of cool way of doing things around cloud-based services or SaaS kind of model. So with an organization or company, they will pay for employee per month on the system. So it's an annuity, sustainable model that allows us to really grow and be able to plow back into R&D. With our university products, you need to be a little bit more aware, or sort of sensitive to the cost barriers in academic learning environments. So there will typically be a once a year sort of fee for a student that is substantially reduced compared to what one would get into a corporate environment. But the idea again is that every year there's a new intake of first year students, and we make sure we build annuity income streams into all our products, and it's not just a once-off thing.
So you built the cookie cutter model. Can you expand it and franchise it and take it overseas?
Eventually I will. This far, I have to admit that my primary focus is on the African continent, because I think there's so many gaps there, and there really isn't I won't be done for a long time to be able to get to other continents just yet. So I suspect that once I've done more in Southern Africa, I'll spend more time in East Africa before I get into West Africa. And that's my sort of horizon right now too. And I think there is far less sort of competition there at this point. And that's where I'll want to focus my energies.
But the issue was more, is it packageable? Is it trainable? And therefore, is it franchisable?
Sure, it would be. And while I am not active, for example, in our Kenyan and Botswana operations there, I have local partners who understand the underlying capabilities of the platform, and they apply it to very different industries. So in Kenya, for example, we've been a lot more focused on agricultural training and a lot around social media and digital training, because that's quite popular there. Whereas those are markets we haven't tackled at all in South Africa, but we use the same underlying principles there. And once you notice where the opportunities are, you can kind of customize where you want to focus. So in that sense, it can be scaled into very different areas.
How do you make a difference in your life and the lives of other people? And because our motto is to be mad. Mad is make a difference. So how do you make a difference, and how do you go mad?
I think that madness is really built into every part of my life already, by virtue of the kind of business I do, where I believe it will be a sustainable and financially successful business. It's also a business that moves society forward. And that's a big part of a great deal of how I spend my time. The other ways I would say is that I spend a lot of time talking and a lot of speaking engagements, and reach a few hundred people each year on my journey, so that other young women in particular are empowered to see how this kind of journey can evolve when it's not something that's foreign to them and outside of them and beyond their reach. And I hope I can provide that kind of accessibility to them, that it's possible for them as well.
You were on the Game Changer panel in this forum.
Yes,
and how did you enjoy that? What are your thoughts
Sure,
on that?
It was an incredible group of women there, very, very, very well accomplished. And I love being in these kind of situations, because it reminds you just how the strength of, I think, that women power is growing and growing, and to see them express their ambitions and dreams in all these different areas, it's comforting that you're not just a little island on your own, and it's coming together across the whole world.
From a very personal perspective, when I stand back, you spoke about cognitive learning and cognitive computing and artificial intelligence. This is making repeat learning very simple, and technical capability very simple. So about 90% of our learning or our work will be taken over by the computer, and we're left with about 5 to 10%. And that is about love, and about connection, about curiosity, about emotion, about collaboration, and all of these wonderful things. And guess who's better at that? Women.
Oh, yes.
Women
in particular.
Way better at that. And therefore, I feel that you are now on the cusp of the golden age for women to really take a lead in terms of showing us the basics Do you subscribe to it?
I certainly do agree. And the other quality I'll add to that is our ability to be a great deal more self-aware and aware of the world around us, and not being so internalized and closed. I think that's a great feminine quality. And that is actually where a lot of innovation, I believe, will come out and emerge, because I believe that innovation is ability to separate from yourself from the circumstances around you and see that those things are changeable and can be fixed or can be improved in some way, shape, or form. And a lack of awareness is what gives you the impression that these things are fixed. And women are a lot more sensitive to that, I believe, and we can drive a great deal of innovation once we claim that trait as a value.
You're from Africa. I have Asian background, and to me, the teacher and the role of the teacher in both our cultures is so critical.
Yes.
Aren't you destroying that role and that connection by bringing them technology? And how do you bridge that?
In my mind, it's not at all. It's going to be complementary. I am not proposing a world where there are no schools or classrooms. I think that's pretty short-sighted. There's many other things that happen in classrooms: communication, teamwork, skills, that are outside of core curriculum. What I believe we can use technology to do is to make efficient learning processes that happen better on a digital platform, so that we free up time and resources for more high impact, complex learning interfaces that need a human intervention. Now teachers don't have to spend hours and hours helping you practice core principles and theory if a computer device can do that. And you can rather do that on a personalized adaptive learning platform and come back to class to actually now interrogate critical thinking and debating about those issues. But you can't get to those points if a teacher has to spend all this time doing basics. So I think that we can leverage teachers' ability a great deal more with technology.
I'm a Harvard Business School alum, and I know that MIT has also done that, which is about 85% of their curriculum now is available online.
Yes, I see.
And how do you see that evolving? And again, the same thing is, on the one hand, you have all of this information available online, but on the other hand, we do need that critical thinking and connection. How do you see that bridging?
In my mind, I think what's happening a lot with the US and the US universities putting that content online is a great start, and a role sort of example for other universities on the continent to start doing that. I don't think we're going to get to a point though where everyone suddenly is now doing the MIT MBA because it's online. There's a whole lot of, I think, social nuances that happen in each country where they have their own preferences, and we need to empower indigenous institutions to participate in those trends as well. Just because it's been online for the last 10 years hasn't fundamentally changed tertiary access in Africa, and we need to understand that it's not this click of fingers and now everything is dramatically changed. Then we need to rather be looking at how do we create platforms and solutions that empower local contributors to participate in that and share their platforms that people have already bought into as well.
What sort of people are you meeting at this Global WIL Forum? Because, there's a diverse group of people. And what are your experiences?
Sure. I mean, I've met the lady Chetna, who's started one of the first banks for women in India. Quite a remarkable story there. Yes. And to think that she did this 17 years ago, and then I'm clearly an amateur in this game. There's real stalwarts in the women empowerment process. I've met also the other ladies on my panel. Etna, who was actually moderating it, was a force of life in herself and has a strong media background and really knows how to pull people together. So different skills altogether, but the spark is there in all these women's eyes, and I think that's what's contagious, and that's what you leave these kind of platforms.
So when you leave this forum and you go back, what will you be saying about it?
I will be saying that our views of areas or previously sort of less developed regions like Africa and the Middle East is going to change fundamentally when you look at the face of women coming out on these kind of platforms. They see a different world. They're going to claim that view of the world they see, and they are fearless about it.
Africa is the final frontier left. I mean, this is the biggest growth continent in the world. Are you excited with all the things you can do there and how this is going?
I'm definitely excited, which is why I don't see having time to go to other continents for quite some time. I believe that Africa will emerge as a global leader. And to do that, we have to overcome the skills and education gap. And if I can make my contribution in that, then I've lived a good life.
Dubai plays very much the role of a bridgehead between places like India and China going into Africa. So Dubai actually is a very central position in terms of that experience. And this corridor is very interesting, how we can cross-fertilize. What are your thoughts as part of this forum in terms of cross-fertilization with a place like Dubai?
What's interesting for me is that I've been coming to Dubai now for maybe 5 or 6 years. My older brother worked here for a number of years. And the critical cross-fertilization for me that can happen is that we can come as Africans to places like Dubai and recognize that a leader was in a position to have a vision, and they dared to make all of this a reality where it was literally dust 30, 40 years before. And what can we do now as leaders, knowing that it really takes that capacity to have that vision and take back to our own countries? And what can you learn from them, having had such a dramatic growth spurt in that
What
period?
did you learn? What did you learn
from that? What reinforced for me quite clearly was that truly nothing is fixed and permanent. If you want to shift that needle forward, it can take focused effort and attention, and you can shift things. It's very hard to look at countries like Europe and US that have done this 100 years before and imagine it can happen now. But when you look at a change that's happened in less than 30 years, it makes it a lot clearer that it can happen.
One of the phrases I use is both for countries and for companies, that no company is too big to fail, and no company or country is too small to succeed. Dubai is an example. Are there any examples in Africa?
Sure,
perhaps Botswana, perhaps Rwanda.
Exactly. Botswana and Rwanda are definitely the countries that would come in mind for me. I mean, I was born in Botswana, so I have a great affinity to that country, and it's been an excellent example, just celebrating 50 years of independence last week. Or end of September rather, on what you can do with economic prosperity and shared wealth across the country. Rwanda is also exceptional. I had the pleasure of interviewing President Kagame at the last World Economic Forum conference there. And what they have been able to do in terms of instilling pride in a very wounded country with a tough history and still build economic growth for them is really, really quite extraordinary. And again, it comes back to the focus of an individual that can shift things forward. I remember asking President Kagame what Rwanda's and Kigali is very, very clean. What inspired this level of pristine cleanliness and things? And he said, we may need aid for a whole range of things, but keeping your own backyard clean, keeping your own community clean is something that you can do for yourself. And it's part of the social engineering of instilling pride in Rwandan people, that these are, when you can see that you can make small changes in things, making small changes for bigger things becomes a lot more possible. And you start to appreciate the whole social construct that must accompany prosperity.
This is the WIL Forum is a wonderful platform, and there are about 90 speakers and about 500 delegates. Some amazing stories and some amazing inspirational people, like you mentioned. What is your final message for them to take away and to deliver impact tomorrow morning?
To deliver impact tomorrow morning.
One little thing that they can do for tomorrow morning. A bit of advice.
My favorite comment really and quote is something that Steve Jobs says. He said that in one of his less popular interviews, everything around you that you call life was made up by someone no smarter than you, and you can influence it and you can change it. So my real message is that you have to come out of this shell where you think life continues to happen to you, and you have to kind of wait for better things to happen and realize that we are really creating the life that we want, and it's not given to us, and it's not to someone better than us to do for us. We are in the position to actually influence and contribute.
What a wonderful message. Thank you very much indeed.